Hi there, and welcome to today's episode where we chat with Leslie Urbas, who is a body competency coach, and she helps midlife women to stop sacrificing their life for their body or diet. And we talk a lot about, the stereotypes, the ways that we've been raised and we've been told, and a little bit of the body shaming and body image and all the difficult things that we, especially as women, can go through in life as girls to then become women and still carry on lots of weight, lots of negativity, lots of hidden stuff that can be causing us illnesses, that can be causing us problems and challenges. We talk with Leslie about her approach to helping women and empowering women to not diet necessarily, not to over exercise, not to feel shame or guilt for eating or doing anything. She shares some wonderful, simple tools and tricks and mindset shifts to help you really feel that you love yourself, that you embrace yourself, and most importantly, that you feel like you're competent, that you have competency over your body, over your health and well-being and your life. And I love her message. So let's get in and let's Leslie to tell you all about her approach to body competency.
But before we get into our wonderful conversation with Leslie, here is your reminder. Subscribe to YouTube, subscribe to Spotify, because only 5% of you are hitting that follow and that subscribe button. We have had thousands of viewers on our videos, and we would love to reach more people. So do subscribe, do follow, just so that we can reach out, because we have some amazing tools. We have some amazing guests who share some really valuable lessons, and we just want to get that message out. So hit that like, hit that subscribe, and hit that follow. But now let's get on with our wonderful conversation.
Hi, Leslie. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm fabulous. How about yourself?
Very much so excited to dive deep into your journey, your wisdom, your experience. So, before we get going, could you tell us and our listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and what gives you the fire every day in the morning to keep going and keep shining?
Okay, so I'm Leslie Urbas. That is my name. At the current moment, I live in Rota, Spain, but I am an American. I'm not an expat. We just are here temporarily, and I enjoy being here. But I am what I call a body competency coach. Now, I say competency for multiple reasons over proficiency or that I am a registered dietitian and a personal trainer with 15 years plus experience is because I really help midlife women uncover what their body has been telling them for life that they've been unable to hear because they're listening outside of themselves to everybody else talking to them. And that helps them to then become proficient. They can help themselves, but then they can also go find the people that can help them, right? I really feel like body proficiency is really dependent on multiple avenues and that we don't just rely on ourselves. And even proficiency in life is really still destined to have other people in it. And that's what I do. I really help midlife women start to feel happy in their bodies again, get back to feeling like themselves. And what makes it so I can get up every day is truthfully, before I would say my children, and now it's everything. And that's why I do what I do, because I a long time ago, I think it was in the book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways. I'm pretty sure. I think in the book, she said, if you're only focused on one thing and that one thing falls away, you could have nothing. And it was at that moment where I was finally like, see, there is a reason why I have 5 books open at a time. There's a reason why I'm working on me, working on a parenting, working on being a wife, working on my business, working on, right, my spirituality. Why I'm working on all these things because I should be working all these buckets. I should be working on my wealth. And so it was at that moment that I was like, okay, then I am doing everything the way that I need to be doing it. I'm doing it my way. And that is a part of what I teach as a body competency coach and what I use as digestion codes. And that's really what gets me up. Just depends which one is the biggest thing. Like, am I getting up to go spend a day at the water park with my kids? Or am I getting up to go like lit up this morning where I was like, oh my gosh, I have an idea for a new course and it's going to be amazing, right? What is it that's lighting me up? Just depends. Depends on which bucket awakes me most excited today.
I love that because, yeah, we're all multifaceted human beings. We're not just one thing, and forcing people to only be one thing and focusing at one time, one thing at a time, really removes from the layers and from the complexity that we are. So, thank you for bringing that into the forefront of the conversation. But more importantly, I love that straight away you started with one of the topics that we hear repeated over and over again from very different angles. Like, our guests come at it from different modalities, from different journeys, from different wisdoms. But we often come to what you touched on, and it's the really listening in, the lost art, the lost ability for many of us to know ourselves, to listen to ourselves, to trust ourselves, for the sake of being just swamped by external opinions, from external pressure, from looking externally for reassurance, for acknowledgement, for inspiration, for education, for wisdom. And I love that this is on the forefront of what you said is, the proficiency. And I've never heard the phrase that you use, and I love it, of learning ourselves and tapping into our inner abilities of healing and growing and recovery. And I'm curious to get a little bit more experience from your end. How did you end up doing this? What were maybe the trigger points? What were the journeys? What were the lessons? What were the ups and downs of your life, of your career, of your personal journey that got you to realization that, I'm looking externally, it's not helping, we're all looking externally, it's only punishing us? How did you start it on this journey of really realizing your inner power, and how it then worked out that this is your main focus right now on working with clients?
Good question. I always start with the same kind of answer here, which is that it started when I was 15, truthfully. It probably started when I was in sixth grade, to be God's honest, when a boy offered me a donut and I was like, "Do you know how many calories are in that?" And I have no idea. It was just a retorted answer from my family, probably. But at 15, I was just stepping into high school, and my high school softball coach told me I was too fat to ever play varsity softball, and I was a normal healthy size, right? I just was on the healthier, I was on the heavier, healthier end, okay? So if you were to look at a BMI scale based on United States prerequisites, okay, which is not standard of anything anymore, really, but I would have been semi-high, right? I would have been like high normal. And so I wasn't stick skinny like she was. And it didn't matter. Like, within the first few days of high school, I was like, wow, that's a big one that I never really knew before, right? I had never processed it on my own, truthfully. And then less than 5 days later, at the end of the school week, when I was sat next to a girl in many of my classes, because you got sat alphabetically in every class, but we didn't have every class together. And I was like, hey, you want to hang out this weekend? And she was like, oh, I'm sorry, Leslie, but we don't hang out with people your size. And I was like, what does that even mean? I had no idea, but it didn't matter. The writing was on the wall. I went to the bathroom. I won't forget the bathroom in our high school, and I could see it. I could see everything they saw. I saw the pimples. I saw how my body was frumpy. I saw everything. So, cue an insert at 15 years old, dieting and exercising away in high school. I cried the day in high school I forgot my lunch and I had to eat something, because I didn't think anything was healthy enough, nor did I know how many calories were in it based on the school lunch line. So I chronically dieted all through high school, and I would love to say it worked, but I actually left high school the day I graduated high school. I weighed more on that day than on the day I gave birth to my first and my second child, and I only have two. So dieting did not work for me, but because I was so keen on this, My junior year, when it was like, you got to figure out where to go to school, and I knew I didn't want to leave my mom, and I just needed to figure something out. My sister looked into being a dietitian at the local school. I was like, what is that? My mom's like, it's nutrition. I was like, sold. I might as well go learn how to save myself from being fat. So I decided to go be a dietitian. And that was how I talked. Like, I'm saving myself from being fat. Well, then, about 3 months in to high school or to college, I decided I was not a good dietitian because I didn't look the part. So I did what many people say. Does becoming a dietitian give you disordered eating, or did you have disordered eating and thus you became a dietitian? And I decided to try on an eating disorder because why not, right? I'm in college, nobody's paying attention. And I ate probably about 300 calories a day for about 6 weeks. I worked out for 4 hours every single day. Somehow did not like have any terrible things happen. And the day that my cousin figured it out and told my mom, I denied it and immediately stopped because I was not going into one of those camps. I was done. I had lost the 15 pounds that I wanted to lose. I felt comfortable in my body, but I had no idea how to keep it. So I kept the 4 hour workouts, which is now an actual disorder. It's called excessive exercise disorder, which was around my time of doing it, new to the market. And I kept that up. I am 39 at the current moment. I would probably venture to say I kept up excessive exercise until I got pregnant at 32. And so I knew it, but I wasn't going to tell anybody. I'm not about to go tell people like I've got this disorder, right? So I just kept it to myself, and many people knew, but if you classified it, I fit. And I'd love to say it stopped there, but it didn't. Once I learned and it wasn't helpful and I wasn't successful and I was incapable of continuing to go forward, I got worse, right? It was like, well, now I want to drink with my friends. So I'm going to have a drink of alcohol and I'm going to go run 2 miles. And it was literally like every two drinks I had, I ran a mile in the middle of a party. I would physically go run a mile and come back every single time. And that's how I chronically lived until I got out of I got out of college. I finished my internship. I actually joined the United States Navy as a registered dietitian. And within the first few months, I got very sick. I got diagnosed with an infection in my back called osteomyelitis, which compressed my back. And when asked, they have no reason why. There was nothing on a piece of paper that could explain why. No reason why this could have happened to me. And less than a few years later, I grew a cyst on my vocal cords, and they had to remove that. And that's when I, along these lines, have been like, something is off, something is weird. Like the things that I'm doing nutrition wise, like I'm still eating healthy. Yes, I'm excessive exercising. That's the thing I kept. But I know all this and nothing is happening. I'm having these weird enigmas and I'm having these things go on in my life. Why? What is happening? So that's where I really started to dive more into the journey of like, consciousness of human design. And I learned what's funny is if you're familiar with human design, I have an open throat. So I have no motor to my throat. So people don't hear sometimes what I have to say, which makes sense because I always wanted to be heard. So I constantly projected and thus caused to have a cyst on my vocal cords. That answered it because the reason why you should have a cyst on your vocal cords did not happen, right? It was still an enigma. And then with the back infection, with the way that I broke through a pattern and paradigm that I should have never done, that caused me to be like, giving this to myself, right? Because I was unconsciously competent. And so that's really how I got to here is by why is this happening? And I don't like that answer. I don't like your answer of, well, it just is. I don't like your answer of this is normal for your age. F normal. Like, I don't want to be normal, okay? I don't, because I think that normal in most worlds are based on a whole bunch of people that labs are evaluated, which they're evaluated the most when we're sick. So now we got our normal from when we're sick. And if you think about every diet study out there, every research study, it is 90% male because they can't control women's hormones. So now you want me to base all of what I'm telling these women on as this? So I created my own thing based on tired of following. I really want to be like tired of following like the cow in front of the herd, right? Like I'm gonna go gander off down this road and maybe I get lost, but I'll probably just get found that way.
Yeah, wow, what a journey. But it resonates. It resonates so much. especially when you said you don't like being normal, because it's one of my things. It's like I don't like when people are like, you're normal. To me always has been almost like an insult. I'm like, I don't want to be normal. Normally it's like watered down, basic, kind of like trying to fit in a mold, where we all should be extraordinary, unique human beings, rather than being labeled this, normal being safe, normal being, society approved, normal being you don't stand out and you don't make waves. And it's interesting to learn about your journey, to see how you were so consciously aware of healthy eating, how to be healthy, how to exercise, the good things that you're doing and the bad things that you're doing, but yet still did not know, and the science obviously did not help much with why certain things are happening to you, why the back, why the cyst, why these things are happening. So I would love to know a little bit more. What kind of then is it something that you genuinely, everything came from within and you only had these realization and you come almost like, yes, you invented your own method, but were there any influencers, any books, any experts, any, it doesn't have to be fully aligned with what you do, but anyone who helped you along the journey? Because sometimes, especially for our listeners, often to be like, oh, I just did it by myself, I had this awakening and everything happened, feels untangible for us, because we feel like, well, we need a little bit of a guidance, we need a little bit of a hand holding, we need to know that we can lean onto someone, and that we don't need to wait for miracle. We can look for little side steps that can help us navigate this journey.
Yeah. So I would say it's a combination, right? I would say the moment I really truly took it on myself was maybe a combination. I think each time I got the random diagnosis, so each time I got like the back infection diagnosis, that led me down to, I'm not sure I truly believe in the system at hand, right? And the time that I got the vocal cord cyst thing, I was like, not sure I truly believe the system at hand. But definitely after I had my daughter would have been when I became more awake in myself, because you hear the things they're supposed to do. And we did not fit into the box, right? My daughter did not fit into the box. I didn't fit into the box, and I didn't like the box, right? So I was taught to breastfeed. They need to breastfeed every 2 hours, only every 2 hours. You cannot feed them more, or then they're being stingy. And I was like, I think my daughter's literally screaming because she's hungry and I'm gonna feed her. Okay. Like, I'm not gonna not feed her. Okay. That sounds terrible for me. It sounds terrible for her. And I don't really care. They will figure it out. She will eventually not want to breastfeed. I am sure of it. Okay. When, I don't know, but I'm not gonna put a time on that. Right. And then fast forward, and this I think would still be before I got my first help, to my son being born. Okay. He's 2 years older. Yeah. Because I really didn't start. So that started my having Lily started me reading books and deciding to become a beach body coach, if you're familiar with that. It's a Canada, used to be in Germany or France or something, but now I think it's just United States and Canada that have beach body. But after I had her in 2018, and I had that moment of like, I'm gonna forget what everybody thinks. I don't really care. Don't let her sleep in the bed with her, sleep in the bed with you. I was like, I don't roll. And she is literally attached to me from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. Like, I could not get her off for 3 weeks straight. If I did, it was just screaming bloody murder. So I was like, I have to sleep. So we slept next to each other. And that's what we did. She's fine. I'm fine. I'm not promoting that. Obviously, do what you feel. That's how I felt following, right? So I started to follow as a mother my own guide, right? I quit my job with no other prospects, no other prospects. I just decided, I had to call my husband. I was like, I can't take this drive anymore. I want to be a better mom. I'm quitting. And he was like, okay, you're going to quit. And then I found a job, and then I got fired from that job. And I was like, I'm going to be the best Beachbody coach anyone has ever seen. And I just was not cut out for that, which is okay. But in Beachbody, they encourage you to do personal development. And the first book I ever read was Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis. Love the book. It's like the best book for new moms because she talks so much about being a mom, that I felt like I read that book in less than 48 hours. And I had not literally read a book since I was probably like in sixth grade. I faked all my book reports. I did all that. I hated it, right? I only read for school purposes, right? But I love that book. And that stemmed me down into reading and reading and reading and reading and reading and reading, but not studying. I'm just reading them. You know, I loved back then, I read There's No Plan B for Your A Game by Bo Eason, a fabulous book. Um, and that's where like I decided, okay, I'm going to do this real entrepreneur thing, right? But the kicker came when my son was probably 7 months. He was still waking up every 2 hours and he still wanted milk every 2 hours. He was refusing his breastfed milk bottle at school, at daycare. He refused to eat anything but like applesauce or things like that while at daycare. He would only drink from me. He would not take from a bottle. And I was like, I'm gonna lose it. I need to do one of those sleep things, right? And then I heard what you had to do, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds terrible. I'm gonna like my child's gonna hate me because I have to let him scream. I'm not gonna let him scream. I can't let him scream. I just gave up. I was like, he'll figure it out sometime. He did that until he was 16 months old. But it was those things that I was just like, I just can't. I love the moms that can. I think it's fabulous if you did or you didn't or however you did it, but that set me down this like, I'm gonna go a different path. And then it was after a long night of not sleeping very well when I was like, okay, I'm going all in on my business. I need somebody to help me with these 5 things. And I manifested in less than 24 hours. An email came across and it was like, she does all these things. And I was like, oh my God, Kristen, I didn't even know you did all these things. And then she introduced me to my first person, who is David Nagel. And I love David Nagel. He has a podcast called The Successful Mind. So if you don't follow him, follow him. But he is the one that woke me up to understanding that I was living my parents' life. And I was like, oh my God, I'm living my parents' life. Like everything, right? Every little detail down to the last dime. And so I signed up to work with him. I met every day on Zoom with him for an entire year. Literally weekends, holidays, you name it, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you get on a call with David Nagel. And he did something like we had a conversation every day. It was wonderful. I still listen to them. And I'd say the next had a lot of other good mentors in there. There's quite a few, but the other one who's really transformed my life has been Amanda Francis. And I was against her in the very beginning. And I would like, if I ever met her, I'd say the same thing. Somebody told me to read your book, Rich as F. And I looked at the front cover and I was like, this is a blonde girl with a champagne glass sitting in a tub of money. No, like trigger like insert every girl that did not like me in high school in that tub. And it's like, absolutely not. I'm not reading it. And then the next day somebody told me, and the next day somebody told me. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to buy the book. And within 4 minutes into the book, because I listened on Audible, probably at double speed, I was crying because she talked about how she used to go to hotels to see how rich people handle money. And I did the exact same thing when I moved to Jacksonville, Florida. I started to go where rich people hung out because as I walked over my first check to pay for my apartment, I was like, who owns this? I want to own this. I want to do this. Right. And it's just so happens that that seems to be her avenue. But I would say those two are the ones. And then a lot on myself. Right. I love the intuitive hits of like, absolutely not. Right. I live more in intuition to know yes or no. Right. I don't buy everything Amanda Francis does. I don't buy everything David Nagel does. I don't listen to everything they put out. It's like, I would probably say it's more not even the words they write. It's sometimes like, I need to open that. That's for me. Right? Versus I have to open that and see what they have to say because God, what if it's the thing? Right? But there was a time when it was the first one where it's like, I have to open this. I have to do it. This is going to be the thing. I got to help myself. I got to get myself better. I got to make more money. I got to be there for my family. Right? And the more I took that I got us out and listened from within, the more they could actually help.
I am loving this, and you've really hit on this, listening to yourself, listening to your gut or your instinct is what is right for me, what's right for my kid. And yes, the books say do it like this, the experts say do it like this, but it's not always right because everybody is an individual. We're all unique and different in our own ways. And but these instructions are normally for normal, whatever normal is. But we don't always fit into that category. And you've also hit on the physical elements, like your back and your cyst in your throat. Is they're not necessarily something that's physical. It's not like, oh yes, you tweaked it by picking up too many bags of something or other, and therefore your back hurts. It's also can be something that's emotional or spiritual, or not listening to yourself. And you mentioned the throat, and the throat quite often that's our the way we speak. And if we don't feel heard, we sometimes have problems with our throats. If we're not expressing ourselves in the right way and keeping quiet, you get something with your throat. And you said you had the cyst and you weren't feeling heard. And so you started to speak louder, but doesn't necessarily mean that people hear you. So, listening and hearing are two very different things. So quite often when we have these physical ailments, but we don't fit into the box of why we've got them, it's like, well, I don't know, just learn to live with it. But it sounds like your instinct and just the way that you've been looking at things worked out. It's not just a physical ailment. There's something deeper in that, because we're not just physical bodies that, tick that box, tick that box, tick that box, and then everything's all right. There's so much more to it. There's, baggage that we carry from our families. There's the way we are emotionally, the way we look at things or see things. These can all impact us. And I love how you finding your way. As you said, you take a gander, you might get lost, but you might, you'll be found, and you'll, instead of just following the herd of cows, you are finding your own way. And I think this is so important, especially now in this day and age, is finding a way to listen to what we have to say. Yes, the books and the experts say we've got to do it like this, but that doesn't feel right for me. So it doesn't mean we can't take guidance from what's out there, but then it's also putting our own spin on it or our own perspective on it. And if we are looking for something, try it. If it doesn't feel right, it doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means it's not right for you. And I love how you really tapping into that and experiencing that and finding ways to be you, because this is what it is about. It's being you. It's connecting to your way of doing something, and your way is not, the person next to you's way. Their way might be different, but it's having that courage and, the following yourself and saying, that's not the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to try this, because, as you said, your son will work it out. They'll work it out. You'll find a way to do it. And these are not overnight. It's not like you decided to do it overnight and sort it. It is a process. It's, especially when you're with children, you teaching them to stop breastfeeding, or they're young. They still need their mother. They still need that connection. And it's come out now that breastfeeding is actually really, really important. But just because a book says do it every 2 hours, 6 months, that's the way it's done. It varies from parent to child to person, and I really appreciate you sharing that, because we so often get bogged down in what we should be doing, in all the boxes that we should be ticking. But what about that box that's in the shadows somewhere? That's our box. That's the one we want to be in. And that's the one we want to look in and, pull out all the wrapping paper and everything else and kick it a few times, maybe, whatever it is, but finding our place in our lives and not trying to fit into what is normal or what is suggested, or this is the way you do it, because if you don't do it that way, then you're not doing it right. And you've really hit on that. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, because I'm sure some of our listeners will go, oh my God, I don't want to be with the herd of cows. I want to go and have a gander down there and see what's in that pathway, see what's there. And the great thing is we might get lost, but then we just take a gander somewhere else, and we might find our way back to a place that actually feels right. So you shared a little bit about sort of the journey that you've been on, and this like, no, I'm not going to do it that way. And you've shared the mentors that you've had, which is wonderful. And our listeners are free to, they can go and look them up and see if it's right for them or not right for them. And you've shared some experts. But with this knowledge that you've gained and this experiences and starting to or listening to your instinct and to your gut, how does that fit into now, where you're at now? How's that starting? I don't know if manifesting is the right way, but how is that giving you strength and keeping you going by listening to who you are and the way you want to go?
That's a great question. So, first thing I want to say is the answer to the gut. So, you're talking to a gut responder in human design. But one of the best, most freeing things is that you might not be a gut responder. And that was something that I felt like was really cool to learn about myself. Oh, my first instinct is right because I wasn't taught that that was right. I was taught to weigh. But to other people, they might not have a gut instinct right away. Right. And I wanted to touch on that because as you're talking about my way, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, I totally get this. Like, I love what Leslie has to say, and I'm really engrossed and I really want to go, right? And I'm talking fast because most gut responders, their gut response is fast. But if you're kind of like, I don't know, like, I don't know, I'm on this, like, maybe, sorta, kinda, I need more information. Like, that's just the way you respond. You don't have a gut instinct, and that's okay. That's okay. You still have an overall response. That's where the human design piece comes in and where I teach because I want you to be able to understand. And I need that to tie into your nutrition, your health, your life. Because if you're a gut instinct, you're going to know right away. If you're not a gut instinct and you need more time to think about it, allow yourself to think about it. Don't let the doctor put the time frame on you. Don't let anybody else, right? So, with what I do and how I really do it to know is because I'm a gut responder. I typically know, right? I typically know, yes, I'm going to do this. No, I'm not going to do this within a few seconds. But I wasn't conditioned like that, right? I still grew up in a house where you weigh the pros and cons and you write the goods and the bads and you think about it and you overthink about it. And I think that's why I love Amanda Francis and David Nagel in their thought process of teaching. It's just a decision. You literally just decide. And then to throw in David Nagel's old CEO, Steph Tush, she always said, indecision is actually true hell. Right? There is no true hell. Indecision is true hell, right? When you are in indecision, I don't know, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? She called that hell. And I was like, that is 100% true. I completely agree that indecision is there. So I now understand that when I start to feel that feeling, I'm like, okay, I'm putting myself in this personal place of hell. Why? Just make the decision. Maybe the decision is, okay, I'm going to send the email to find out more information. Or maybe the decision is, okay, I'm going to actually read the entire length of this sales page, which is way too long. I don't know why we make them so long, but it is way too long. I'm going to read every word to see if this actually is for me or not. So I can be clear in my yes or no. Because when you say to me, to grab my free handout of this is the checklist I use to make my first million, do you want it? Most people are like, yeah, I want it. But when you get down to it and you meet people or you hear people like Maria Went who actually say, I know that checklist will not even make them $1,000, but I get them from that. It's like, why though, right? Like, why do we want to do that, right? Why do we want to do that? I see why she does it. I know she has courses that teach that. I see the value of it, but that's like a no for me, right? Like, I don't want to put out a freebie that says, if you do these three steps, you'll lose 10 pounds. I'm like, no, that sounds terrible. There's no promise with that. You could do those three steps one time and I can't guarantee you 10 pounds lost. What is the lie for? I don't want to lie, right? But that's where then I want to tie into the fact that while it is just a decision, it took me understanding what a good decision felt like and a bad decision felt like in my body. So now, even further in my work, I met Irene. Well, I didn't meet her, but I took Irene Lyon's course. It's like literally like 21-day challenge or something. I don't remember. Put in Irene Lyon is really what you want to put in when you look up her. But she has a 21-day, $297 program that you can learn how to reset your nervous system, for lack of better words. And I did that in October of 23, so not too long ago. And I started to feel what it was like. Oh, this is nervous. This is anxiety. This is stress. I'm making this decision out of God, hope, and pray that this is going to do what it says it's going to do, versus I'm making this decision because it's anchored and truthful in my body. And that's a huge part in what I teach. It's incorporated in what I do because we are there, right? Okay. And then, the other aspect I take into consideration when I do these decisions and when I decide what to do to go forward is not just how it feels in my body, not just making the decision, but is the decision actually coming from me or from my conditioned parental guidance response? Right? Because my gut is still going to feel good if I'm in alignment with the belief that was implanted in me from my parents versus the belief that I'm choosing to believe now, right? So there's going to be a discharge there, right? There's going to be some static, okay, where both decisions can be right, right? Like, do I invest in this, right? Parents say absolutely not. I mean, you can, but they just want to take your money, right? Okay. But my gut says, I get that. I get that. And I feel the nervous system around that. Okay. But I'm going to regulate my nervous system to go back. And then when I look at this investment, my gut actually says, but this is the next right thing on my path to get me to where I want to go. So I am going to invest in it. Or you're right, this isn't the next thing that's the best for me. So even though I don't agree with your belief anymore, I'm not going to choose to do it based on myself. And I feel like all that has to be taken in consideration. And it all ties back to food. Because believe it or not, you're choosing the food based on what your parents taught you, based on what the school taught you, based on what the diet taught you, based on what the doctor told you, based on what the scale said yesterday, and you don't even know it. It's all a part of this journey. And that's really how I make the decisions and choose where to go next and to know I'm in flow is taking into consideration nervous system, gut response, seeing if it's my gut response or a conditioned gut response. And then for each individual person, it can be different, right? Because I'm a gut responder. There's other people that their intuition is the responder. And that can be a really big blow your mind because your intuition's been talking and you don't even know what it sounds like because everybody else has been written all over it, right? So yeah, so it's all fun. That's how I really get to there. So
I love how you're describing things and sharing this, like you said, the programming we get from schools and parents to finding our own programming, our way of doing something. And I'd love it if you could share maybe just one or two ways that our listeners can maybe start to hear whether it's their intuition or their gut, because like you said, there's so much noise that having that trust in the gut or the instinct or the intuition is learning to hear it or feel it or just learning to do it. Is there anything that they can do to find a way, or is there something that you've learned on your way to realign? I love how you said that, realign with your own way of doing things. Is there some tips or advice that you can share with us?
yeah, so the first one that I was ever educated on was that when you hear in your brain first thing in the morning, wear the blue shirt, wear the blue shirt. Don't question. Don't look in the mirror and be like, but the blue shirt makes me look like this. No, just do it. So the more, I know, right? It's so funny, but like the more you can do the silliest thing that you hear the brain say, like the more you're going to hear the voice. But when your brain wakes you up in the morning and says, as you're getting ready, wear the blue shirt, and you're like, absolutely not. I'm on my period and I'm up 10 pounds or whatever. I'm not going to wear the blue shirt. That's going to make me look huge. You have talked your own voice out. Intuition or your voice or your gut instinct will always tell you what to do. It was something that I always heard. Like, it is going to direct you to what to do. It's not going to give you a 20-minute diatribe. It's not going to make you feel terrible. It's not going to give you shame or guilt. It's literally going to tell you what to do. Okay. So the simplest thing is that if you hear wear the blue shirt, wear the blue shirt. If you hear don't eat eggs today, eat pancakes, eat pancakes. Okay. Right. That's the first thing. And people are like, but if I eat the pancakes, that's totally off diet. Okay. I get it. We'll get you to where you need to go. But if you could listen to the gut instinct there, then we'll be able to make progress. That's number one. And the second thing I would say, and this is to help the nervous system as well as the intuition, is that for 1 week, anytime you need to pee, go number two, eat or drink, do it immediately. There is no waiting. There's no, I'm going to send this email, then I'll go. I'm going to finish this up and then I'll go. You literally stop, you get up, you go to the bathroom, you come back. Okay. You literally pick up the water mid-sentence, drink the water, and put it back down. You literally eat food because you're hungry. But if I start to eat food and every time I'm hungry, I'm going to be eating food all day. I don't care. You'll eventually get out of that phase too. All right. But those would be my first two things to really help. The second one helping not just intuition, but a nervous system reset, because our body can't even tell us what's going on wrong inside of us if we're not listening to those four basic things. Pee, number two, drink, and eat. And that's true.
Love the simple tools. We love the simple because simple is simple. We overcomplicate things, we overthink things, but these are just simple. And I love how you just do it. Don't think about it. Don't just finish off whatever. Just go do it. And it is, as you said, it's about listening. And like you said, wake up in the morning, wear the blue shirt. But we will talk, like you said, talk whatever it is. But it is about finding a way to reconnect with us. And these are such simple ways of doing it. And simple doesn't mean that it's easy. It just means that it's not overcomplicated. So thank you for sharing that, because that is really beautiful and it's doable. And this is what we love. We love simple and doable tools that can help to move forward, to reconnect, to whatever it is that we, myself and Lenka, our listeners, are looking for. It's just finding the right, the tools that are not overcomplicated, and then don't take hours, and just, you gotta pee, go. Nothing to it, just go. So thank you for that. I really appreciate you sharing those tools. So you mentioned that you're in Spain at the moment, and Lenka has done a lot of traveling around Spain in her van. We've had Lenka's been in lovely, beautiful sunshine, and us here in the UK have been in the pouring rain in the middle of winter, and she's there in a t-shirt. What brought you to Spain from the States? Why are you in Spain at the moment?
My husband's job, nothing fancy. He chose to go here. I was not on board at first, but now we have chosen to stay and stay and stay. So stay, we stay for now.
Love it. How long have you been there, and how long are you thinking of staying there? Because it's very different to the States.
100%. 100%. And it's like a love hate kind of thing. So we got here at the end of 2022, and we probably won't leave as of right now until 2030. So we have quite a long journey left. And my first goal was just to make it through the first 18 months we were scheduled to be here. And then we chose to stay because of our kids. And we wanted to give them a little bit more consistency. And then we chose to stay because we love the school here for our kids. I want them, and I would love for them to be bilingual for sure. And I love that they get to grow up in the way that I remember growing up, right? When we were little, I could leave my house and walk the half a mile to three-fourths of a mile to my friend's house, right? And a lot of times they would meet me on the way, and then the deal was you call me when you get there, right? Because I didn't have a cell phone, right? We didn't have cell phones back then or any of those things. And now most kids can't do any of that, right? Here in Spain, where I live, like today, when I walked to acupuncture and back, I saw not one, but probably five kids between the ages of 5 to 8 on the street by themselves. Now, they all had a purpose. You could tell one was going to the store to pick up a few things, one was throwing out a recycling. So, I'm not saying they're walking around blindly here, but that's something that's unheard of. And we loved that aspect of it, of our kids being able to grow up with that ability to know what it's like to be able to be free. I don't know if you've read The Anxious Generation. I'm not all the way through it. I probably just need to get it on Audible because it is so research heavy that I can only read so much before my brain goes, right? I'm like, and now I'm back in school. But in The Anxious Generation, there are three things that he states that will help your kid. Number one is, I don't know if you guys where you guys are at, but I'm sure you guys have them in like where you said you've traveled in UK and things like that. But you know the I always forget the name of it, but like the merry-go-round, right? But it's the one where you sit in and you propel how fast you go, and somebody's on the outside sometimes, and sometimes you hold on and you fall flat on your face. Those aren't really allowed in the United States anymore because people really started to sue over them. Their kids would get hurt, they would sue the park, right? So they took them out. I couldn't even tell you a park in the United States that I've seen with them. And they got rid of all the things, right? Now we use some recycled material, but it's basically plastic, really hard to hurt yourself on equipment at parks, right? And so that was one of the things. And that thing is literally like the closest park to us is right there in the middle of the park. And both of my kids have thrown themselves from it and learned a lesson, right? And he's like, but that's the best way for you to learn super fast, right? So that was one of the reasons. The second reason was is that kids have to be able to go a distance from you to know that they can like test to go safely. And so in the States, the distance that he's talking about is more than any parent would allow their child to do. So that was another reason. And then the third thing was, and this isn't really as much in his book, but in other research studies, we just really wanted them to go to Montessori. And I thought, what better way for them to go to Montessori than here while learning two languages at the same time? Because I really just felt that that would be helpful. So, yeah, that's the main reason why we stayed was truthfully for the kids and the ease. I cannot say it is because of how fast things get done here, because I have learned the way of just being like, okay, we will see when that gets done. Okay. Like somebody rear-ended us in the end of May, and we're still waiting on a part to fix it. And I mean, the car runs and everything like that, so we're at least in a great situation. But just kind of one of those like in the United States, this would have been fixed within 3 weeks. But that's okay. I love Spain.
Well, I think there's some benefits to the slower pace of life because, with this attitude comes a little bit more of, not everyone is as stressed or as anxious and as on tiptoes to get things done as fast as possible. That's first word I've ever learned when I was, I think, 10 years old. First trip to Spain, or Spain-owned country, was Mañana. That was the first thing that they ever taught me. It was like, you will need to work whatever you're gonna ask the hotel, whatever you're gonna ask anyone, I'm gonna tell you mañana, mañana, and it can mean in 5 minutes, tomorrow, or at some point. And I have experienced it when I was in Spain earlier this year, and I had a couple of van issues, and I had to deal with local mechanics. Already with my poor Spanish, trying with Google Translate to talk with local mechanics in the middle of nowhere who don't speak English, don't understand technology, and have very thick accents and talk fast. The thing I did understood every single time was mañana por la mañana. Tomorrow morning we're gonna come and fix it up, which meant, at some point, maybe in the near future, I'm gonna show up and help you fix your van. So, but there is something that I embrace about this lifestyle. Is like, just let it be, allow it, be kind of accept that this is the reality and not stress. And I think there is a big difference culturally between the US and then especially the kind of southern countries in Europe, Spain, Italy, Greece, where you have like this, like, whatever, just don't stress, be easy. And there is something wonderful about allowing yourself to do a little bit more of that.
I agree. The first time I went home to the States, I was like, wow, I forgot what road rage feels like. And I had to like close my eyes. Now, mind you, we were driving from the Atlanta airport. If you're familiar with the United States and familiar with Atlanta, you will understand that. The Atlanta airport to my sister-in-law's house. And my sister-in-law, who was driving the car, is very familiar with Atlanta traffic. So she was not concerned. And I was like, I'm gonna have to look down. I forgot what this was like. I can't do it. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna die in this car. And just the like, as soon as we got off into like the country road and things changed, I was like, oh my gosh, I can breathe. I forgot what highway driving in the States felt like, and many other things. But I completely agree. That's a nice thing. And no pasa nada being everything. It's like there's no like they don't really say thank you. It's like no pasa nada, like I got nothing, which is like no worries, right? Everything is no worries, no worries, no worries, no worries, no worries, right? This needs to be fixed, no worries. It'll get there, right? Okay, I just don't have hot water, so how many cold showers am I going to take until I get the hot water? Too bad it's freezing inside this house and I don't have central heating, but I don't have to worry. I'll take my freezing cold ice bath, and that's cool because it's good for your nervous system, I hear. It's just my kids. I eventually got to get them to some warm bath because I cannot do that to them. It's me. And I have taken a lot of freezing cold showers in this country, more than I care to admit, and not for a cold plunge purpose.
I love your stories, and we have something similar in South Africa. It's called Just Now. Just now. It could be just now. It could be half an hour. It could be tomorrow. It could be next month. It's just now. It will happen. Just now. No worries. Just now. Yeah. So I think a lot of countries have this slowness, which you love. And when you were talking about those roundabout things, oh, I used to love them as a kid. Oh my word, you could make the other kids sick first. It was like it was something. But yeah, you fell a couple of times, you learned to grip on, and you just learned how to jump safely. So I really love those. So thank you for sharing your Spanish experience. And yeah, because I know Lenka really enjoyed it. I've never been to Spain, but Lenka loves Spain. So thank you for sharing that, and just your experiences and your perspective on Spain, because obviously it's two different people with the Spanish experience. So thank you so much for that. So this is where we ask Leslie, can we please have your gold nuggets?
I would say my gold nugget is that it all starts with how you're feeling inside. Whether it's a diet or what to do next in your life, or to travel Spain, or to live in California, or wherever you're thinking or what you're doing next in your life is really what feels good in your body. And I say that with the utmost knowing that that takes a level of understanding what healthy nervous system feels like, which took me a long time to even understand what that felt like in my body. To be like, oh, it's where you can just watch the world go by. And you don't feel like that person's stressed and that person's angry and that person's super happy and that person's, but you're just there, right? And to me, that is where you start. Like, if you're going to do anything, uncover more on how to bring yourself to that state of just, as people call it, meditation, which meditation is all times, right? It's where you can watch the thoughts and watch the things and you don't react. And that I think is the most important thing to making any decisions into your life, into health, into anything, is how it feels within.
Thank you so much. And that is so beautiful how it feels within. It's such a powerful thing. And as you said, just being able to just watch and just be there without being embroiled in all the stuff that's going on. So thank you so much. That was a beautiful gold nugget. Now, for our listeners, if they're thinking, you know what, I need some Leslie. I need to find out, what is she doing? How can people connect with you to get into your circle, to find out more about what it is that you're doing, or watch you, or work with you, or just find a way to connect with you? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can enter my name, Leslie Urbas, on any platform, really. I mean, my favorite are Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Or just type in digestion codes. Everything that has the word digestion codes on it is attached to me in some way, shape, or form. If you're like, how do I spell Urbas? I have no idea. I totally get it. Digestion codes is your way of finding me. And if you want to know more, I have put the links with you guys as well as For what I shared as my gold nugget, I offer a nervous system reset, as I call it, for you to begin to know those things. And that's in there. If you're like, I just want to dive in and take a whole bunch of videos from her, click.
Perfect. And obviously, all of those links and everything that you mentioned will be linked in the episode show notes so people can find you directly, find you on social media, find your website, find all these resources. We will make sure that it's all linked below. Thank you so much for being here. This was wonderful. We always like to get a little bit more from our guests. We always are trying to hang on to one last question which we can squeeze in. And we touched on it possibly in the beginning, but I'm curious to see, it's slightly different question. Maybe over the past hour something have, moved, then you will be inspired to tell us different answer. I don't know. What we love to ask at the end is, because this podcast is all about finding ways to have more life in your life. It's all about finding ways to put your life first and prioritize your life. So I'm curious, what gives you life right now?
Every time I can be neutral. Every time my kid can throw a fit and I can stay calm. Every time those around me can throw fits and I stay calm. Every time I get to learn something new or I hear something that I'm like, that triggers me in a way, but I don't respond, I can watch and uncover. And I would really say that that is what lights me up right now, is every time I can see that I'm neutral because I see the growth. Now, when I don't stay neutral, I do get just as excited to go, ooh, I still have something to work on into getting into neutral. So that's there. But the neutral has been really helping me. And I love the Course in Miracles because the Course in Miracles talks about how everything is neutral. And I never quite understood that until reading that book. So that would be it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your time with us today and your perspective and your journey on what you've done and your experiences with food and the fitness industry, but also your learnings and your wisdom that you've gathered over the years to, come and share your time and share your energy with us today. We really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Of course, my pleasure.
And for our listeners, what have you got from today? Are you exercising a lot and counting all those calories to try and fit into that box that they say you should be in? Or have you found a way to really connect with your instinct, with your gut, in a way that you can help yourself to make those decisions that are aligned with you? What aha moments have you got from this conversation today? We would love to know, what are you doing to help yourself to listen to what it is that you are wanting and the decisions that you feel you need to make? We would love to know any thoughts or questions that you have. Do contact myself or Lenka, or just write in the comments. And until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.